What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with ES, NQ, and many other futures. What's going on with the big data coming up for tomorrow. It's going to cause some volatility in the markets and what you should be watching for Tesla stock. Let me just mention that I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total. And the offer ends in just 6 days from now. Anyways, for Tesla, we had a very, very interesting structure that developed today. Tesla dipped all the way down very close to this 212 area, actually went a little bit below during the pre-market only to get bought back up. But basically this 212 area was very close to where our support was that held us up. We managed to hold the 200 EMA, which is exactly what I predicted would end up happening. So the question is, will Tesla maintain this strength and actually hold this support, or are we about to get a big rug pull? I'm going to give you guys more insights about this over the next couple of minutes. Just know that today was a very, very interesting day. We had the GDP numbers come out, not to mention initial jobless claims, and everything was pretty good. GDP growth was above expectations. Only GDP sales were a little bit weak, but everything else was pretty good in my personal opinion. So what did the market do off the good data? The market pumped, held up. Then it got a big rug pull at the very end of the day as the bears are still showing a lot of strength. So this is telling us that right now, the bears are still strong. They still have a lot of strength in the markets, and that is once again showing weakness for price action. But the question is, what's going to happen for tomorrow since we have another very significant piece of data coming out that could end up trumping this? So tomorrow is going to be Friday, July 26, 2024. 1 hour before the market ends up opening at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the PCE data report. Now we're expecting 2.5% for year over year for both PCE for all items and core PCE. So 2.5% or lower is what we're expecting. Not to mention 0 to 0.1% for month over month for core and also for all items PCE, not CPI. One thing that's very important to note about PCE is that this is very accepted by the Fed. This is another important inflationary measure that's very similar to CPI. And it's going to give us more insights for what the Fed's policies may end up looking like. Now, it's also heavily dictated by CPI, and just notes that the last time CPI came out, all the data was once again below expectations. So we got a good CPI year over year and month over month, and also core CPI was pretty good. And then also, when you look at the 1 month change, the percentage of CPI, things were looking pretty good as well. So we got good data. The market was liking the data, at least for CPI. And now we have PCE coming out for tomorrow. I predict that most likely the data is going to be good for PCE below expectations. I think that core PCE and all items PCE year over year will be below 2.5%. And also the data month over month will be aligned with expectations, if not below that. That is my prediction for PCE in my personal opinion. Now, for other factors involving the markets, we also have the fear and greed index currently at fear. Fear is dictating the current price action, the current sentiment for the markets. And we're also seeing momentum at fear as we're getting very close to 125 daily moving average. On top of all of this, the puts and call option positioning is continuing to climb as we're starting to see more puts being bought on the 5-day average, and volatility is still extremely fearful as we're seeing the VIX break out. So this is now favoring the bears. For earnings, just know that we don't really have anything too crazy. We just have like Charter and a few others. Nothing too crazy, at least coming out for earnings for tomorrow. As far as Tesla goes, there's some news coming out that Tesla's officially paused the Giga Mexico project just for the time being, depending on what happens with the election. If former President Trump ends up winning, that could actually affect tariffs. So that's going to have a big effect on Tesla. There's also a lot of talk coming out about Tesla's margins. I'm still seeing that making up headlines and other things which are not too significant. So right now for Tesla, there's some uncertainty, but we did get some good news. LG and many other suppliers for Tesla are now looking very optimistic for Q3 and Q4 for more higher levels of scale for battery production, and that's actually a good piece of news for Tesla that came out as well. So we got some good news too. I also want to note that in terms of our options chain for SPY, tomorrow we have about 430,000 calls expiring, and we have over 800,000 puts expiring, a 1.89 puts to call ratio, with max being at 547. So there's a lot of puts expiring. Right now, the bears are the ones who have the edge, and price action is still being dictated by them. Tesla's seeing signs of less volume, 100 million only, and short volume is still continuing to dip a little bit. We're seeing a little bit less shorting than before at 57% of the volume. Some very, very important new research places and analysts are giving new ratings. We have Roth, MKM coming out giving Tesla a neutral rating. New Street Research is giving them a neutral rating. Then Cantor Fitzgerald gave them an overweight rating. Those are the latest analyst ratings. And then also, The price price ratio is trying to bounce because Tesla's gaining some strength. We're also starting to see more green at least 48.95% of the time. And that's pretty much it for volatility. We tend to see more volatility at the very end of the day. So that's it for Tesla, guys. Now let's just focus on the charts. What do I think is going to happen? Obviously, it depends on the PCE data reports. That's going to have a big effect on how we end up moving. But I am a little bit concerned about Tesla in the markets because right now the bears have a bigger edge. The bears are still very, very strong. So just to be frank with everyone, okay? Let me make it clear that PCE is going to have a big effect on how we end up moving. But even though we got decent GDP numbers today, the market pumped and then dumped. So I am kind of concerned about that. For tomorrow, make sure you watch the following levels on Tesla. Tesla has support currently at this 219 area. If that fails, I'll be looking for 215 and then 212, this range as Tesla supports. If we end up losing or closing below 212, we turn very bearish and Tesla's going to get a rug pull all the way down to the low 200s. If we manage to break past 225, we turn bullish. Then Tesla can start breaking out for 232. In my personal opinion, okay, we have got this big green bar. I think that tomorrow PCE is going to be decent. So make sure you're prepared for anything just to be safe. I'm not really a fortune teller. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think that the most likely possibility is we retest 225. We'll have to see if Tesla could break this or not, because this could be a shift in the trend. Because when you look at the 1 hour time frame like this, you guys could see that on the 1 hour, Tesla's breaking structure is actually breaking the high over here. So this is a sign that Tesla's trying to make a higher high, and we could try to break out higher. Now, I think we're going to be testing 225. We'll see if we get a big rejection at the end of the day and get a rug pull, or if we break through it. If we do break it, we're going all the way up to about 232. If we fail, or I'm sorry, 229 and then 232. If we fail to do so, we'll reject. So it really depends on what kind of reaction we get from the data. But look for a little gap up and a push in the markets tomorrow morning, and we'll see if we reject or not. But I just want to make that very clear. That's what I'm expecting for tomorrow. For SPY, we're looking pretty bearish, at least technically speaking. We've been downtrending quite a bit. We even tried to rebound only to reject. However, whether or not we get a big rejection from this point on depends on PCE. For resistance, make sure you watch the very, very key 540 area. If we break through that, look for 542 and 544. If we lose 538, I'll be looking for 535 and potentially low levels like 531. In my opinion, I think SPY is going to gap up tomorrow and retest around 542, and we'll see if you reject or not. Today we did pump only to reject, so just be very careful. The bears are still very, very strong. But this price action is telling us that the bears are strong. The bears have a very, very big edge over the market right now, and there's no sign of them actually weakening quite yet. So they did let the market pump a bit only to reject, so we have to watch for confirmation. Also, I want to note that on SPY, when you go back to the daily time frame, we haven't fully filled our gap, so that opens up the risk of some downside. So you want to be very careful with that. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me fix this. I did misclick for 1 second. Anyways, going back to the daily, when you look at this like this, you will notice that there's still this gap to fill. So we still have this big gap to fill down here. I'm a little bit apprehensive because of that. We could kind of gap up and push and reject and come back down to fill that gap. It's a strong possibility. For ES is on a bit of a downtrend right here. There's a risk of some downside, in my personal opinion, but it depends if we could hold support around 54.35. Look at resistance at 54.75. I think we might test that tomorrow. And if we get a rejection, we could be dipping lower all the way down to the 53.50s or 5400 flats and then 53.50s. If we do bounce and we break past 54.75, we could turn back to bullish, but I don't really favor that. I think we might just test this and we'll have to see what kind of reaction we get. So tomorrow, I think we're going to be pushing a little bit higher in the morning, and then we'll see if we end up getting some kind of rejection or not. So watch for that very, very carefully. One other concern I have is because of SPX. SPX has not fully filled its gap all the way down to about 53.72. We have not fully filled the gap, so there's still a risk of downside for SPX, and we still look bearish on the daily. So there's a risk of downside, in my personal opinion, which could lead to the market slowing down more. So that makes me think, even though SPY might gap up tomorrow, maybe rebound it a little bit in the morning, there's still a risk of more downside for at least 536, and we'll have to see what kind of reaction we get from there. So a gap up, a pop, and then drop is a very, very strong possibility. But make sure you watch your levels just to be safe for confirmation. For Nvda, I just want to mention that the 4 hour for Nvidia is showing weakness right now. There's no sign of a true rebound quite yet as we're making lower highs and lower lows. But there's this little liquidity grab right here, which might lead to a little push. Watch this resistance around 117. If Nvidia breaks that, we're going to be pushing back up. If we reject off that, we could end up coming back down. I think that 115 and 117 might be tested tomorrow, but then we'll have to see if we get a rejection or not. And I'll be watching that very carefully. So look for a gap up in a test of 115 or so, maybe a little higher, and we'll see if Nvidia rejects. It depends on the PCE data reports and what reaction we get. Bitcoin concerns me because, at least for the bulls, because even though there's a 4-hour PPO crossover and it looks like it might try to retest 66,000, the problem is we have a head and shoulders. We have a left shoulder here, we have a head up here, and then we have a right shoulder forming. If we form a right shoulder at 66,000 reject, make sure you watch 63,500. If we lose that, we turn bearish. There's a possible head and shoulders, so just be very careful on Bitcoin. So we'll see if this plays out or not and how PCE data affects this. For NQ, we're on a bit of a downtrend right here, barely holding 19,000. If we bounce off this, look for 19,250. If you lose this, we'll be dipping all the way down towards 18,800. So I do see a risk of downside on NQ. There's a bit of a downtrend right here, so be very, very mindful. And there is, in my opinion, some more, downwards momentum that's building. So be careful on NQ. The QQQ might gap up tomorrow and retest 460. If that breaks, look for 464 or 462, then 464. I think we might retest 460, but then we'll have to watch and see if we reject. So watch and see as we're testing this trend line right here. We could retest 460 and then maybe reject and start tipping lower towards 457 and eventually 455. Why 455? That's where we have this support right here from the day. If that fails us, we'll be looking for 453. But I think we might push a little higher, then we'll see what kind of reaction we get. So watch for that very carefully. For Apple, Apple's on a bit of a downtrend right over here. We've been falling and falling and falling. In my personal opinion, despite this downside, we could be retesting 218, if not 220 tomorrow, depending on PCE. Might cause a little push in the markets, but then we could still reject and start dipping down lower, all the way down to 216 all over again. I definitely see a risk with that, so please be very, very careful when it comes to the way it's moving. With that being said, guys, I'm going to focus on the rest of these tickers, be kind of quick. Palantir is kind of rejecting right here. We might retest 27 tomorrow. We'll have to see if we can try to rebound. There's this downtrend, but watch to see if we can break 27. If that breaks, we're going up to 27.64. If that rejects, we'll be dipping all the way down towards 25.97. So watch a test of 27, see if we break that or not tomorrow, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. I do think it's going to push a little bit higher, but then watch and see what the reaction is. For Supermicro, we still look very bearish on our 4-hour time frame. We could retest 700. We'll see if that breaks or not. If it does break, look for 720, but then we could reject and start tipping lower. And if we end up failing, I'll be looking for this wick all the way down here to fill. So it still looks more bearish. Could retest the 700s and then reject all the way down to the 680s. So watch for that. It still looks more bearish. Rivian's going to likely retest 16.6. 16.46 to 16.65. I think this range is going to be tested. If this breaks and we get above 17, we're going to be pushing back up to 17.5. If we reject and fail to come above 17, look for a rejection and move back down. So I think it's going to push tomorrow morning, retest 16.65. Obviously, it depends on PCE, but that's what I think is very probable. And we'll see if we get a rejection or not from there. For SoFi, it looks a little bit more bullish. I think it's going to be testing 7.34. If that breaks, we could be looking for 7.6. If it rejects, we'll be coming back down to 7 flats. But so far, it's favoring like it wants to push a little bit higher. So watch for that very carefully, see if we end up getting a little push or not. And that's going to be very pivotal for how we end up moving, at least moving forward. For the IWM Russell 2000, we also have a nice looking cup and handle like structure. This is looking more bullish to me. Might retest 222. If we break that, I'll be looking for 225. Well, 224, then 225. If we end up losing 220, look for a dip back down to 218. But so far, it's showing some strength compared to NQ, SPY, and the others. So this is favoring upside for 222 and even higher levels. For AMD, we're looking more bearish. We're continuing to downtrend right here. Might retest 140, the previous resistance becoming previous support becoming resistance, excuse me. And if we reject, we'll be coming all the way down to 135. So it looks more bearish. Looks like it might be dipping to 135. We might rebound to 140 and then reject. So we'll see how things go. For ARM, we're looking a little bit more bearish. Right now, we're continuing to fall. We basically have this resistance at 152.5. We might test this and then reject. And we also have this big little wick to be watching for. So we might be coming all the way back down here. So look for 152. If we reject here, we might be dipping all the way down towards 144. And we'll have to see how things end up moving, at least going forward. If we do continue to fall, there's going to be more downside. So we'll wait and see how things go. So be very, very patient. For Coinbase is trying to rebound right here. I'll be looking for basically a test of 240. We're seeing some buyers defending our 200 EMA. So look for 240. If you reject off that, we'll be coming back down, all the way back down towards 226. If it breaks 240, look for 242. If that breaks, we could try to rebound. But then there's also like a possible head and shoulders that could be forming. So watch 240 and see what kind of reaction we get. For Amazon, we're looking bearish because of this structure. We tried to rebound to 182 only to reject. I think we might be retesting 182.5 tomorrow. If that breaks, look for 184. If we break that, we could turn back up to 186. If we fail to break 182.5 to 183, then we could reject. My gut tells me it might fail because we have a possible head and shoulders that's looking kind of lackluster, and the full measured move is not in yet. So look for a rebound and then a rejection on Amazon. Be very, very mindful of that. For Meta, there's also a bit of a downtrend right here. We're still continuing to fall. So I think that for Meta, we might rebound towards 462 to 460 and then reject, and we could continue to fall. The trend is still more bearish for Meta. For Microsoft, we're looking a little bit more bearish still. There's no sign whatsoever of a bounce. Could retest 420. We got to break that to go up to 425, but I don't think that's going to happen. The chart does not show that. The chart instead is favoring more downside for a move all the way down towards 415 than 412. For Google, there's also some more downside potential. We're on a bit of a downtrend right over here. There's going to be a risk of us coming all the way down towards about 165, so I do favor that in my personal opinion. For GameStop, GameStop's on a bit of a downtrend as well. We've been falling and falling and falling. There's no sign of a bounce on GameStop, and I think the full measure move is not in yet, so it could continue to fall all the way down towards 23 flat. So I still favor downside for GameStop in my personal opinion. For AMC, we had some bullish news, which is why it's actually favoring some upside. So there might be an attempt to actually push on this. It depends if it can hold above 5.1. If it holds, we're going up to about 5.3. If it breaks, we'll be coming back down to 4.8. So overall, it's showing some strength. For DJT, we're trying to rebound right now. Look for 32.45 as resistance. I think it might be testing that. So I'll just see if we get a bounce and look for 32.45 as our resistance. The VIX is also on a bit of an uptrend, trying to break out right here, trying to get back above 19. So this is looking a little bit more bullish, but we'll have to see if the VIX can break past 19 or not. We'll see how it goes depending on PCE data. We might gap down a bit, but then we'll see what kind of reaction we get. So be very, very patient. And the 10-year Treasury yield is continuing to hold up, trying to push higher. We'll have to see if this continues to break past our 50 EMA, but that is also favoring downside. There's one more thing that concerns me for the bulls right now, and that's the fact that the bears have an edge looking at the dollar. So I'm talking about the overall market. The dollar index has a nice inverse head and shoulders. Okay, there's a nice inverse head and shoulders right here. If we manage to break past the 104.5 area, we could easily push for 104.8. If that's the case, the inverse head and shoulders will play out. If the inverse head and shoulders plays out, this could lead to some downside in the markets, guys. So make sure you're very prepared for that. Make sure you're open-minded. There is a risk of some downside for the markets if the dollar gets a breakout. So be very, very patient and watch and see if that ends up being the case. So for Tesla, the market could act like an anchor for Tesla. I think that there is potential for this to try to rebound for 225 for tomorrow, but there's no guarantee it's going to hold that level in my personal opinion. So you want to be very careful with Tesla. It's not the end of the world. We might attempt to rebound depending on PCE data. I'm obviously not a fortune teller. I don't know what the data is going to look like or what the exact reaction will be because it's based off data and other factors. So we'll just have to see how things end up going. So once again, for data, before the market opens, I'll be back to talk about PCE. Also, 30 minutes after the market opens, we have the Michigan Consumer Sentiment data, which might cause some more volatility. So we'll see how things go. But until then, I will see you guys tomorrow to discuss what's happening with the markets, what's happening with the PCE data and such. And I just want to wish the best for everyone. So please take care. The market's very volatile, very, very crazy. And always remember to manage risks and be very careful in a market like this. So I wish everyone the best. Have a great day, a great evening, a great night wherever you are around the world. I just want to wish the best for everyone. Stay strong, guys. The market is very volatile, very tricky, so you want to be very careful with all the manipulation. Don't be too biased. Be open-minded. Be very, very eclectic with the way you go about things. So try to be as open-minded as possible when it comes to your plays and manage risks very, very well, not financial advice. All right, Tesla to the moon. The long term is still very bright for Tesla despite the short-term fluctuations and the short-term downside we've been seeing. We could attempt to rebound in the morning depending on PCE. We'll just have to wait and see what that looks like. But then we'll see if the move lasts or not. So be patient, be open-minded, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow before the market opens. Take care and peace out.